January 1st, 1945. In just 3 hours, the German Luftwaffe lost 900 fighter planes. An entire air force almost vanished, and Operation Bodenplatte became one of the deadliest disasters in WW2 aviation history. But how could such a powerful force fail so completely in only 180 minutes? Let's uncover the shocking truth. The last roll of the dice. January 1st, 1945, 8:12 hours. A frozen airfield near Cologne, Germany. Engines scream against the cold as Oberleutnant Karl-Heinz Weber tightens his gloved hand around the throttle of his Focke-Wulf Full 190A8. The canopy vibrates. Frost crawls along the metal framing like veins of ice. Around him, dozens of fighters idle nose to tail on the snowy tarmac, their exhausts coughing white smoke into the gray morning. In his headset, the radio crackles with clipped, coded phrases. No music, no speeches, just orders. Weber doesn't know the full plan. Very few do. He only knows this: fly low, stay silent, hit the enemy airfields at dawn, and destroy everything with roundels on the wings. Above the runway, church bells ring in the distance. It is New Year's Day. At 8:15, green flares snap into the sky. The Luftwaffe rolls. For the men climbing into the air that morning, Operation Bodenplatte feels like a resurrection. For months, the German Air Force has been bleeding out pilots killed faster than they can be trained, fuel rationed to the bone, aircraft grounded for lack of spare parts. The Allies own the sky. American P-51 Mustangs and British Spitfires prowl at will, strafing roads, railways, even bicycles. But today, everything is different. Today, the Luftwaffe is striking back. More than 900 German fighters lift off from airfields across the Reich and occupied territory. BF, 109 seconds. FW, 190 seconds. Flown by a mix of veterans, instructors, and barely trained replacements. Their mission is breathtakingly simple and brutally risky. Fly at treetop level into Belgium, the Netherlands, and northern France. Catch the Allies on the ground and wipe out their tactical air power in one decisive blow. For secrecy, even German anti-aircraft units have not been informed. That decision will matter. Weber's formation drops to less than 50 feet above the frozen fields. The world becomes a blur of white farmland, black tree lines, and church steeples flashing past at terrifying speed. One wrong move, and you clip a barn, a power line, a hill you didn't see coming. There is no radio chatter, no navigation beacons. The Luftwaffe's ground control network, once the envy of Europe, is shattered. Pilots navigate by memory, by rivers, by roads barely visible under snow. Already, planes are disappearing. A Messerschmitt 109 drifts too far left and vanishes in a burst of flame after striking a stand of trees. Another skids into the ground while attempting to avoid a flock of birds. No one breaks formation. No one can afford to. Ahead, the horizon lightens. Dawn is breaking. Across the front lines, Allied airfields are waking up slowly. At Asch Airfield in Belgium, American pilots of the 352nd Fighter Group are still pulling on flight jackets, coffee steaming in tin cups. Maintenance crews move between parked Mustangs, unaware that death is racing toward them at 400 miles per hour. Then the sound hits. Not the high-altitude whine they're used to, but a deep, roaring thunder coming from below the tree line. German fighters explode into view, cannons blazing. The attack is instant, violent, and chaotic. 20mm shells rip through parked aircraft. Fuel trucks detonate. Hangars splinter. Ground crews dive for ditches as strafing runs carve lines of fire across the concrete. For a few minutes, glorious, terrible minutes, the plan works. Allied aircraft burn where they sit. But surprise has a lifespan. At Asch, 2 American pilots, Lieutenants Don Gentile and Chuck Yeager's squadron mates, are already scrambling. Mustangs roar down the runway through smoke and debris, lifting off under fire. Within moments, the hunters become the hunted. Above dozens of airfields, Eindhoven, Grimbergen, Streatrand, Maldegem, the same pattern repeats. German pilots circle back for second and third passes, hungry to finish the job. That's when the sky turns against them. Allied anti-aircraft guns, fully alert now, hammer the attackers. Tracer rounds stitch the air. At low altitude, there's nowhere to hide. FWM 190 seconds, disintegrate mid-roll. BF 109 seconds, cartwheel into the ground, trailing smoke. And then, something worse. German flak opens up. Uninformed Luftwaffe units, seeing unidentified aircraft screaming in at rooftop height, unleash everything they have. 88mm guns, light flak, machine guns firing blind into the chaos. Weber sees a fighter ahead of him explode, not from Allied fire, but from a burst rising straight up from a German village below. Friendly fire. The radio finally erupts with shouting, confusion, panic. The clock is still ticking. The 180 minutes have only just begun. From triumph to catastrophe. By 8:45, the first euphoria of attack has faded. Weber banks hard over a snow-covered ridge near Street Trond, scanning the chaos below. Ground smoke mixes with burning fuel, forming a choking fog. Fires leap from aircraft to hangars, turning the flat fields into hellish infernos. But the price of success is becoming clear. Out of Weber's squadron of 12, 4 are gone, obliterated by flak, collision, or enemy fire. Another 3 limp home, engines smoking, barely controllable. Silence in the radio tells him what the men rarely say: they are losing more than they can afford. Across Belgium, the pattern repeats. At Eindhoven, Lieutenant Walter Schuck, a Luftwaffe ace with 206 confirmed kills, is forced to jettison his canopy and descend after his plane is hit by ground fire. Other pilots, disoriented and low on fuel, crash into forests or canals. Many more are captured. Some attempt risky landings on frozen fields, only to break landing gear and watch their FWM 190 seconds crumble into useless scrap. For the Allies, the assault is sudden, but their training, discipline, and superior numbers turn the tide. Mustangs and Spitfires tear through the Luftwaffe formations. Pilots like Captain George Preddy execute slashing attacks, exploiting the Germans' low-altitude vulnerability. Every passing minute increases the attrition. Where Luftwaffe pilots had hoped for a quick strike, they now face dogfights, anti-aircraft fire, and desperate returns over hostile terrain. Weber spots a wingman crash less than a mile away. The fireball is brilliant against the gray morning sky. For a moment, time seems suspended. He wonders if they have underestimated the enemy, or overestimated themselves, perhaps both. By 9:30, the operation is unraveling. The Luftwaffe has inflicted damage. Several airfields are destroyed, fuel depots charred, dozens of Allied aircraft burned, but nowhere near enough to cripple the Allies' air power. Meanwhile, German losses skyrocket. Many pilots are inexperienced, many aircraft are under-equipped, and with so many low-level attacks, coordination collapses. Friendly fire claims hundreds of aircraft. Communication errors prevent any effective regrouping. At Maldegem, Major Siegfried Freytag, a veteran of the Eastern Front, realizes the scale of disaster. "We were trained for dogfights, not suicide runs," he mutters, staring at the twisted wreckage of his once proud wing. His voice is lost in the roar of engines and explosions, but the despair is unmistakable. By 10, the Luftwaffe has suffered catastrophic losses. Nearly 900 aircraft fighters and attack planes combined are either destroyed, damaged beyond repair, or stranded behind enemy lines. Dozens of aces and trained instructors are dead, leaving the German Air Force irreparably weakened. Fuel shortages and mechanical failures make even retreat dangerous. The survivors limp home over icy fields and forested terrain, shadows of the proud Luftwaffe formations that had taken off hours earlier. The human cost is as brutal as the material one. Pilots crash, bail out, or are shot down only to be captured or killed. The few who make it home are haunted, knowing they are the last wave in an air force that can no longer compete. Young trainees who flew for the first time that morning now count themselves lucky to breathe. Their mentors are gone. Their planes are gone. Their confidence shattered. Allied reports later describe the German pilots' bravery, but also the recklessness born of desperation. The operation, conceived as a bold strike to regain the initiative, instead accelerates the Luftwaffe's collapse. No other attack would come close to the scale of this loss. The Allies regain all lost ground in hours, and the skies of Western Europe remain firmly under Allied control. For the viewer, it is hard not to feel the tragic poetry of it. The sun rises fully by 10:30, illuminating smoking airfields, frozen trees dotted with wreckage, and pilots staring blankly at the horizon. A war that had already been decided in the air is now visible on the ground, a testament to courage, desperation, and the lethal cost of miscalculation. In just 180 minutes, the Luftwaffe attempted to rewrite history and in doing so, erased much of its own power forever. Operation Bodenplatte, audacious in conception, became the greatest single-day disaster in aviation history, a stark lesson in the dangers of overreach, inadequate planning, and underestimating the opponent. For Oberleutnant Karl-Heinz Weber, the flight back is silent. He banks low over fields scarred by fire, avoiding wreckage like a ghost through a graveyard. His hands shake as he sets the few 190 down on a frozen runway, the engine ticking and groaning in protest. Around him, other pilots touch down, some weeping, some swearing, all changed. Above them, the sky is empty, the only sound the faint whistle of wind over twisted metal. The promise of a German counterstroke has died.